Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern. And, we thought that in celebration of Eros and really keeping Eros alive and going, regardless of our situation and condition, let's keep going and let's actually keep Eros alive. I think that is the best way to really continue to celebrate where we are in terms of, just um, living living what we teach, basically. So I really appreciate everybody for coming on this call. I want to just give you a quick layout. We will be continuing these calls every day, Monday through Friday. Each day will be a new instructor. Today we have Aubrey. Tomorrow, for those of you who have been joining us for the community calls, you're welcome to join us tomorrow for the community call. And then on Wednesday, we have Alicia Price, and I'll be introducing her on Wednesday. So without further ado, I'm going to just give you a little bit of a bio on Aubrey, and then I'll hand it over to her. Okay, Aubrey Fuller is a deep researcher of the feminine and brings her knowledge of feminine wisdom to her teachings. Aubrey is the holder of the women's movement, fearlessly guiding women into the path of Eros and their liberation. Aubrey is also a senior instructor on the platform, and she is the lineage holder of the Eros Sutras. Aubrey has been walking the erotic path and practicing orgasmic meditation for 15 years. She is a very good personal sister and has many times walked me along that path of liberation too. So I am very proud to introduce everybody to Aubrey.
Thanks, Sia. It's a whole thing receiving that on a Monday morning. Thanks for coming, you guys. I am excited that we're doing these talks every day. I really like what you said, about how I couldn't reconstruct the exact words that you used, but how I heard it was a continuity of Eros and joy for all time, no matter what. And it really does feel like that. Somebody was asking me how I'm doing today, and they asked in that kind of way, like, oh, you must be having a hard time. And I'm not having a hard time. I am having the time of my life actually right now. And it includes the very bizarre, very emotional, very strange, and at times disturbing experience of my friends being in jail. It includes that, but it's that aspect of it is part of the strange like richness of this time, and all it, like, being able to experience this time like that is entirely due to this path and orgasmic meditation. And I just feel so grateful to get to, there's some rule that I feel like we have about, there's these specific scripts that you're supposed to follow for different experiences in life. Like if someone, passes away in your life, you're supposed to be sad and grieve in this specific way, or you're like not doing it right or something. Or, if I don't know, if you're going through a divorce or something like that, you're supposed to experience it like this. Or if you get the job of your dreams, you're supposed to be experiencing it like this. And all of those are sort of these scripts and these narratives that I feel like this path allows you to break out of, and that orgasmic meditation allows you to break out of, in a way where you get to just have all of it, and you can be totally grieving something in your life and feel incredible joy all at the same time. It's like it breaks you out into this ability to feel everything at once, instead of kind of have to have it isolated to like one single emotion at a time and then talk about it in a certain way. And so yeah, I feel really kind of unleashed right now, actually. Like um I feel like the whole experience of the trial with Nicole and Rachel and everyone who came to support, and the prosecution and the FBI and the judge and just everyone who had a role. um, I feel like the the circumstances specifically have created a, 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 a sense of like fuel and urgency and intensity and clarity of like what needs to be done. And then all there is to just hold your attention on that spot and then make progression, progress on that every day. Um, and so what I thought I would talk about today would be the same thing that I'm just thrilled to be talking about every day with different people, which is, hang on, I'm just going to adjust my screen just a little bit. Sorry. One moment. Okay. This is a moment for womankind, and all people, but womankind specifically holds a certain responsibility here, a very deep responsibility here. This is a moment for womankind to decide: are we going to accept the dubious boons of victim consciousness that culture will just keep doling out like freaking candy on Halloween, or plug into something deeper in ourselves that we know is truer and more real, and really lock onto that. It's our power, and do the harder true path of actually being in our power. And I had this, so I'm doing this series of videos with because I was a potential person on the defense witness list. I was ready to go. I was excited because I knew all I would have to do is go up there and tell the truth. And so I was excited, like I was like, I want to get up there and tell the truth. And a number of close friends of mine were also on the defense witness list for the trial. And through a series of events that you can read about in various media pieces, the defense was essentially blocked from really being able to give a defense. And so none of us were called, but there were a bunch of us ready and willing, and who had kind of a whole transmission and truth to share. And so I've been having these conversations with some of the people who were on the defense witness list, and they have been so rich. Like, these conversations have been so amazing. So I was talking with Alicia. I made a stop through the land a few days ago, and I was talking with Alicia, and she was describing, her whole experience with the FBI and all of this, and kind of the playbook that they used to try to intimidate her into being a witness for the prosecution side. And kind of what she went through with it and how intense it was and the kind of tactics that they used. Side note, all the tactics that they use are the things that they accuse One Taste of doing. That's what they do. And we were laughing because we were like, it's very hard to explain to people that One Taste was a challenging environment because it is a bunch of people with free will, and always has been. It's a challenging environment because it's actually a bunch of people who are just, they do what they want and they don't do what they don't want, and they try things out that they kind of are averse to, and then decide if they want to do them more or less or whatever. And everybody just kind of, it's very desire based. And so it's a challenging environment because people weren't controlled. And it was very the opposite of what the FBI and the prosecution did in this case, which was all the things that they accused us of, like trying to coerce people and brainwash people and all of this stuff. manipulate, intimidate, all of these things. So she was telling her story, and we were talking about how if you are a woman and you want to have anywhere in your life that you felt like a victim be reinforced at any level right now, socially, culturally, politically, legally, you can have it. There is nothing but that available for you. As far as the eye can see, there are nothing but opportunities to have that reinforced. It is so extreme right now that you have to seriously go out of your way to not take people up on that continuous offer. It's not even just an offer, it's being pressed down your throat, like that you are fragile, that you should be protected, that you should limit the amount of experiences that you're having, that if anyone is hurtful towards you, they should be jailed because you obviously couldn't possibly handle something like that. Like, there's a narrative that women are these sort of fragile flowers that have to be protected at all costs, and it's really intense. And so if you want that, it's so available that it's disturbing. And if you don't want that and you want power, you want to actually like have strength, like strength of will, courage, resilience, power, access to your desire. If you want to ensure that you maintain access to your power by having access to your sexuality, that you get to define how you relate with it from the inside out and not have the world tell you how to relate with it. If you want that, you really have to go out of your way to do that. And you have to, I feel like all day, every day, you just have to constantly turn down the offering of the victim candy all the time in various ways. And it comes up everywhere. And we were talking about how like, what does it really mean to plug into something deeper that's more compelling than that? And it's funny because if you or if you really do a deep dive in the sutras, or like you really have a deep practice that brings you into arousal and eros, and you touch that place, which I know many of you have, once you touch that place, that is infinitely more compelling than all of this, the sort of like benefits you get from living in victim consciousness. But it can be easy to forget, because you're just going to be reinforced forever and ever by most people around you, for any for any place that you present as fragile. And we were kind of talking about like, so you get like, what happens a lot is you get one of two options as a woman. You get the nice option of, no, you're fragile, you need to be protected. All of these protectors come out of the woodwork and present as like these saviors and these guardians and all these things, right, who are here to protect you. Spoiler alert, those are parasites, all of them. And then, or you can be a villain. There is not really an in-between. And I think the erotic path for women is the in-between. Like, that's what we're doing, is saying like, women are this whole vast nuanced experience of all of these things and all of these archetypes and all of it, and we get to embody all of it. But culture and this sort of victim narrative, if you won't swallow the victim script and you won't play by that rule, you will be cast as a villain instead. And this was part of the FBI's playbook, with the whole case and everything is, they would kind of go to somebody and be like, oh, were you a victim? And if that person was like, no, I absolutely was not, had a great time at One Taste, love the practice of doing great. They would be like, basically like, oh, well then you must have been part of the coercion. And this was actually what happened to Rachel. She was offered, they said, oh, you're a victim, and she said, no, absolutely not. And they said, oh, great, well then you're a villain and we'll indict you. And then they indicted her. So it's a very real thing. Like you get kind of you get shunted into one of two roles, right? And so like to carve out the middle path that is the reality of womanhood and personhood is a intense endeavor. And you need you need access to your power to do it, and you need connection with other powerful women to do it, and you need access to the power of arousal to do it, because it is a bit harrowing. And so that kind of brings me to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is how important it is for women to not give in to being silenced and obedient at this time. This trial, and the conviction, and then the subsequent remanding, for anyone who, I know some of you were there, this is exactly like so many different things throughout history, where there's an element of like such fear. It's meant to strike fear in the hearts of anyone who would follow suit with these women and continue, kind of talking about the same controversial topic. It should not be controversial, you guys, but whatever. We're in a time and an age where it is. But it's like anyone who would follow in the footsteps and continue talking about those controversial subjects, it's meant to strike fear in the hearts of those people. So they shut up and stop talking about these controversial subjects. And I did a video on this recently, but like, this is why when they would burn witches, they would make it so public and so violent and scary. It would be to scare all the other women into compliance and obedience. And this was also what lynchings in the South were about as well. It's meant to be so horrific that it scares everybody else into compliance and obedience and silence. And so if you love these women and you love this path and there's truth to this, or you love or whatever it is that brings you to calls like this, it is, if you want to honor them and honor this path, or honor Nick and Rach, in any way, then not being silent, obedient, fearful to talk about this stuff is a big way that you can do that, and a big part of that. And I was telling another friend of mine the other day, that when I'm making my content about this, or I'm doing these talks, or I'm doing my interviews with the silenced witnesses, is when I feel the most fearless. Like I feel like protected in some way by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas behind me or something, however your worldview, whatever your worldview is on that kind of thing. I feel protected by something bigger, and I feel leaned in a way that has me feel really like my path itself will take care of me however it goes. And I feel resilient and courageous and like fully myself. And then I'm able to respond to the little trolls in my comment sections and stuff like that from a clear but like penetrative place, and I'm able to be a representative and a face of this deeper thing that I believe in a way that I think keeps bringing the transmission of this lineage out, you know. And so I really encourage, like, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't get better when you lean out or stay quiet or toe the line or whatever. It doesn't get better. The only place I think we feel um, fearless and totally resilient is at like 100% vulnerability. 99 and you're dead. 100 and you're weirdly invincible. So just in whatever way is your way, I encourage everybody to really speak out at this time, or write about it, or bring your opinions out however you do it, you know, even if it's just in your conversations with the people in your life. Even if it's just like ending up in a conversation with somebody who is, you know, talking shit about this thing in a way that you don't actually like, you know, it's not right and you just don't agree with it. Instead of just being quiet there, go to bat for it, you know. Really, like, those conversations matter, even if no one ever knows about them, anyone else ever knows about them or hears about them or anything. Like, there's a ripple effect from that. Like, it's really important. um and yeah, so that's that's my passion right now, you know. And then one of the things that just one of my conversations with one of the silenced witnesses the other day, and a good friend of mine, she and I were close friends with a few of the women who opted to be on the prosecutions, in the prosecution's witnesses. And we were talking about, she said it so well. Yeah, she did not pull any punches. she was like Nicole and Rachel are free. They're just deeply free beings. Like, wherever they're placed by their life, they will always just keep bringing, like, they don't even have to, like, they won't even have to do anything in particular. They will just keep bringing like transformation and beauty and awakening and love and approval and this transmission of this lineage, like, wherever they go, just by being there. And they will make it amazing and fun and find the gem within it every single time. Like, that is just who these women are. That is what this path is. That is the aim of this path, is unconditional freedom. And she just said it so beautifully. She said, they're free. They're going to be free wherever they are. And, you know, but the people who help put them there will have to live with this. And it was just, it was like, you know, it was like one of those like feeling like when somebody hits a drum or a gong or something, you know. That was like the feeling of it. And so that brings me a lot of heartening, is thinking of the experience that Nicole and Rachel are having in jail in Brooklyn. They're having a really profound experience, and it's like actually incredibly beautiful. And I think about it a lot and feel connected to them inside of that. And I feel like really privileged to get to hear about it, and feel what what those consciousnesses placed in that soil, like seeds, what that feels like as it takes root and then begins to grow and like flower, and like what comes from that particular place in the deep below of society. It is just actually really potent and really cool. um and yeah, so I that every day brings me, is one of the great sources of joy and also inspiration and urgency, and helps me continue to get my voice out, about all of these things. um Passion, it's a source of inspiration, joy, passion, urgency. Yeah. And then I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to say before we could go into like a question or discussion time or whatever. um Gosh, I can't remember, what was it, something about the women's power piece. but I really wanted to remember to say this part. Damn it. um, I guess I bet you it'll come back to me in the Q&A part. I think it was something else that came out of my conversation with Alicia the other day. Um, like just a new kind of angle or facet of seeing this whole thing and seeing, women and their power in the world. So I think it'll come back to me soon, but I can't remember it right now. So we can go ahead and go into Q&A or discussion.
Thank you so much, Aubrey. Such a beautiful, powerful transmission. Let's go ahead and open it up to questions. So if you have a question or just something you want to discuss with Aubrey, go ahead and raise your virtual hand and I'll call you. Rachel Regan.
Hi,
Oh, this was
Rach.
fun. Hi. Hi. Um, this was there were so many moments. This was so great. I really, really heard you when you said it's not a time to be silent in any way. And I don't know if it's the same for everyone else, but I can sometimes feel an avalanche of um I have to do something and then get stuck or get frozen or think, oh, what am I going to do? But I had this moment today with family where I just in a spot where I would just not talk and there would be that we would just not talk about it. We had a conversation about all sorts of things, like a little bit about the case, a little bit about a little bit about mostly about women, because I was talking to my mom and my sister. And I thought, oh, it's in those moments too. It's not just did I write that Facebook post or did I blast it everywhere? Am I out on the street tapping people on the shoulder and saying, you need to listen, like chasing people down the street? But I am actually up for something like that. But
You
um
are.
I am actually into that. But it was such a gorgeous moment, and I really loved I've loved everything that you've been sharing online. I felt it so accessible and helped me understand more. And I'm inside the thing and I'm learning, but it's so accessible the way you present everything. And I've really been able to share that with family and people where I don't quite know what to say. Um, and then I just wanted to say, I don't really have a question. I just want to give you a bunch of I just wanted to say the other thing that really stood out when you were talking was where you said we never know the ripple effect of the smallest moment. Like um, we can think, that conversation with my mom today, no one else outside of the family is going to hear it, but there's something that everybody walks away with, me included. And yeah, I just really appreciated that. And then, oh, I did have a question. If there was a way that you found recently, the like like a way you would recommend tapping into that, or like trying new things, or like what way would you say would could you say for women to find more of their voice in this moment?
That's great. I was thinking about this last night, well, it connects into something that I was discussing something with my chat GPT, in fact, because it was helping me lay out some complex thoughts into a coherent thing. But I was thinking, it's funny because before this, when I've felt urgent about this for a while. I mean, we got canceled in 2018 by Ellen Hewitt and her Bloomberg piece, right? And then the FBI investigation, and then they were indicted a couple years ago. I mean, this has been a long time. I felt urgent. Okay, I felt urgent for a minute, but um, but the urgency took on a different level after their conviction. Um, and it's almost like it matured into something different than I've experienced it before. Urgency, it can be hard to harness it because it makes you want to have a knee-jerk reaction, and kind of like a, let me move into action as quickly as possible and just buckshot everywhere, kind of thing. Um, and now it doesn't feel like that. It feels it's like it's maturing in some way, and it's like taking root as a consistent fuel source. And I have been feeling lately like relaxing really deeply into the ride of it. Um, and paying close attention to what I had this remembrance last night that you work with what you're given. Like there's all of these things right now in this moment. There's all of sort of these materials to work with. There's karma with different people. There's like where you find yourself in the world in this moment. There's like the different um, patterns and kleshas and things that you're wrestling with in yourself in this time. There's just literally everything that's all around you on all the levels, physical, energetic, emotional, all of it right now. And those aren't like random, and it's not like, oh, let me get out of this into this thing over here and then do the those will be the right materials and then I'll go from there. It's literally what's here right now at any now that you choose. Those are the right materials. And so then you just can begin to work with exactly what is all around you and emanating from you right now, right here. And so how do you have the transmission of Eros, or the voice that you can hear around what you want to say about these things come out right now? And so sometimes for me that looks like I'm like, oh, okay, time to make a video, and it's that obvious. And other times it's just I'm seated at dinner with some people and the conversation isn't about any of these things, but I can be at that table in a way where my being is emanating Eros. And then at some point the conversation is going to shift to something related to this, even if it's indirect. And then I put my seeds of Eros in there, and how I communicate and my tone and my voice and everything is a living, like transmission of this. And that kind of connects into the thing the thing you highlighted about ripple effects. It really, every moment, whether you're talking about this stuff directly, whether you're the kind of person who would talk about this stuff publicly, or you're just totally not, how you show up and present yourself and the rightness that you have with like who you are as an erotic being is everything. I mean, it's really like everything. And then you can, I started out as such a quiet, no eye contact, terrified introvert, and here I am making social media content. So, and that's because over the many years I've done so much work with getting my, bridging my internal experience with exterior expression, that it's really fun now to challenge myself to that level, to love myself enough to bring it out that far and be able to be with myself with that level of it. It's like fun to do that, but it's like, so it's a game and you can challenge yourself at whatever level you want, but at the most basic level, being right with who you are as an erotic being, and then letting that emanate out wherever you are, even if it's kind of disruptive to your environment, like just your energy. is always sort of the spot to come back to, and then you go from there. That was kind of
Thank,
abstract. Was that all right?
I thought that was gorgeous.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
thank you, Rachel. All right, let's go to Patric. Hi, Patric.
Hi, hi. Wow.
Patrish,
Hey.
looking gorgeous, summery.
That's right. I'm dealing with this note that says unmute. I am unmuted.
You are unmuted.
All right,
I can hear you.
good. And so I want this thing to go away. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Yes, and I am unmuted.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm with you about shyness. Shyness, highness. And I'm not anymore. You know, I now I say I used to be shy, and that's a definite used to be. So I did notice that I am coming out more because of the trial. You know,
Yeah.
I practiced oming for many years without explaining it to many people. And really before the trial, because of the prison projects and Women Over Dinner, I connected with some people in my community who are really movers and shakers in prison reform. One has created Adopt a Prison, which is worldwide now. Another created rehabilitation through the arts. These are my friends, and I got to explain to them what oming was. Well, I it was wonderful. They were cool. It was like, Hans, who's the adopted prison person, said, "Oh, this wouldn't happen in Europe. It wouldn't be a thing." He's Dutch, wouldn't be a thing. So he really understood. They both did. So they, were wanted to follow the trial. They supported me in supporting my friends who were on trial. They really. So I guess what I'm saying is that I think there are different ways in to the conversation, and I really like to I'd like to go back in history, like Woodstock, and I missed Woodstock, but after that, people started trying to figure out what's in it for the woman. So they did, hours of touching the clitoris, and eventually, oming was developed by Nicole. So I think there are ways of talking about it that really people can relate to, and so now they, want to keep track of what, they feel the injustice of it. And I think that helping people see the bigger picture, the really big, uh, how culture is changing, and it's a moment for us all to participate in the change by speaking and not just letting it happen by default, because culture will defend itself. The past culture, so I in my last comment is that I have been invited to a fireside Zoom chat tonight, and the topic is the witch wound. So I'm going. So it's an opportunity, I think, to talk about one taste and the trial and the wound. It is really continuing. And now we have power to actually stand up. So
Love that. Love that so much. Really, really beautiful. Thank you, Trish. Yeah, there's something I wanted to respond to in what you said. I think just the feeling of I think I just want to highlight the feeling of you demonstrated that feeling of like rightness with who you are as an erotic being, as a woman, so beautifully in that share. It's something that just kind of emanates off of a woman, and it's receptive, but it's also, it's receptive in that like someone could come and be like, you could be like orgasmic meditation, and they could be like, weird, bad, also you're weird, I don't know about this, I hate it, you know. And you wouldn't take it personally. You'd see it for what it was, and you would, you know, kind of feel into the situation and be like, does this moment want some navigation? Does this person want some navigation? Like, would it be helpful for me in this, would it be helpful for me and them, and what's the spot right now to like, should I try to kind of educate them a little bit more about this, or does it feel like it's just a closed door, it just wants to be left alone, in which case I can just be like, okay, great, I don't think it's weird, I'm gonna go, you know, or whatever it is. And to me, that's a big part of being right with ourselves as erotic beings, as erotic women, is staying soft, open, receptive, but also unyieldingly clear on the spot, no matter what, through any projection, anything. And just kind of continuing to speak about it, and just keep bringing the transmission and how we speak about it. And everything, every way that you spoke and described had that emanation. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you, Patric. And then we'll go to Denise from Instagram. She said, I'd love to hear more about the difference between 99% vulnerability versus 100%. Can you give some examples?
That's cool. Well, obviously, for this, you know, my favorite example is from Harry Potter. Uh, you guys know the story of Harry Potter. But there was this part in it that I always really liked, which was you know, the whole reason he had this scar on his head was because, you know, the villain went to kill him as a baby, and his mom's love protected him, and so a curse that killed everybody else it ever touched just scarred him instead, because of his mother's absolute vulnerability and protection of her love in that moment. And I think about that for some reason. I like that. I think it's really beautiful, and that's how I feel about the 99 versus 100 with vulnerability, is like, we're protected in some divine way when we let ourselves be fully felt and fully seen, and let that, you know, emanation, or, you know, that transmission that we carry as erotic people be felt. What I love about it too is you don't have to like press it on anybody or insist that anybody see it for what it is or understand it or anything. You just don't. All you have to do is not hide it or like push it down or push it away. You don't even have to talk about it directly. You just can let it be in the room. And 100% vulnerability feels like that. It feels naked. It feels kind of like you're sitting naked in a room with people, and that you are, you know, your practice becomes working with your own mind so much that you're just relaxed in your nakedness. And I find that when you really let that be felt, it is so powerful. It is such a powerful presence in the room. It's more powerful than convincing. It's more powerful than a brilliant argument. It's more powerful than almost like than anything else you could do, because it really speaks for itself. And then so that's 100, and then the 99 is like, when you like, let's say I have something vulnerable I need to admit to a friend or share with a friend or something like that, you know, And I go to them and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be totally vulnerable. I'm going to do it. And then I get in there and I share the thing, but I like hold back a little bit of my heart about it, you know, or I don't quite share the entire thing. And that's like 99. And then they just kind of kill you, you know, like then they get mad at you. It gets into a whole fight, you know, and you're like, hey, I was vulnerable. And they're like, I don't care, you know, but some part of you knows that you didn't like give the whole thing, that you didn't let them really feel you, that you maybe said the words, but you didn't let them feel you, or you let them feel you, but you were really protective about it, or something like that. That's kind of the 99. There's that feeling like you didn't quite let go all the way into it. And for some reason, that can almost be worse than not having been vulnerable at all. Well, I don't know about that, but at least it gets you it gets you closer. But it almost makes you a target in that way. So it's kind of like, it's like a courageous thing to truly go to the 100.
Beautiful answer, Aubrey. Let's go to Matthias.
Um,
Matthias.
hey, thank you so much, Aubrey. This is awesome, and I've been taking notes until my laptop overheated. Um, question that, and I'm gonna additionally like digest everything that you've spoken and shared. Um, let's say, and there's a number of people that I have in my consciousness about this. Let's say, there are men who are already like absolutely pro women and pro women consciousness and all the things. And I don't know, I'd love to hear. I mean, I can certainly make up my own thing and kind of customize based on everything that I know, but I'd love to hear from your standpoint, like what is like this special jewel that you could see to maybe like, in addition to everything else that you've shared, that's something that might unlock a perspective that is, yeah, that might not be seen otherwise.
What's the perspective that needs
Well,
unlocked?
yeah, well, that's my question. Like, if there, based on what I shared, like, is there like a, something like a jewel that you might have that comes to mind right now that might unlock a particular perspective for them that they may have not yet connected the dots on?
The men who are pro women, but something, I just don't know what the lock is. I keep trying to,
Oh,
because I
okay.
have to
Well,
be able to feel the lock to tell you the.
right. No, of course, yeah. Well, and maybe that's just them finding out about the case and all the boy, I don't know. Maybe it's like, they're pro women, but they actually haven't really fully embodied their erotic self. How about that? I think that probably would be accurate and true in all the cases and the people that I'm thinking about. Like embody their erotic self.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think when I talk about being naked in the transmission of, the erotic, in your erotic being, and being an erotic person or whatever, right? A lot of what that ends up, a lot of what you, as erotic people, a lot of what we step into in the world, in terms of being a representative for this thing, on whatever level you are, a lot of what you end up doing is literally just being really right about sex, just being really right about it, and right about other people's sex. And by right, I mean in approval of, and not ashamed of, and not shaming of just kind of being a person in the room who is a sexual being and loves and appreciates sexuality and loves and appreciates it in other people, and doesn't shame it and doesn't find it shameful, and just kind of sits in the room, whether it's a physical room or the room of your life, emanating out a general approval for just like sex is wonderful, right? Clean, amazing. Even when it's dirty, it's clean, you know, it's good. It's just good. It's just good. It is the access point to power, which I actually think people know instinctively, even when they don't have words for it, or their mind is in denial of that. I think people actually know instinctively that sex is the access point to power, that like arousal and working with arousal is the access point to power. It's just difficult. So not many people have like words for that, but they do kind of know it instinctively. Um, and so I think that is a lot of the hangups that people have, and the root cause of a lot of people's tumescence and like weird programming and conditioning, and all of it is like shame about sex at a pretty basic level. Shame about their own sex projected onto other people, and then shame about other people's sex, and then confusion about what sex even is, and then starving for it, and so then going out and getting it in these sideways ways, or being really secretive, burying all of it, the whole process of eating sexually, like burying all of it underground, and it just gets very, it gets very warped and strange, and people get very weird about it. And so being emanating like a clarifying energy about sexuality and the rightness of it and the beauty of it and the power of it is kind of what came to mind when you were talking. And women's, and around like women's sexuality. I want to say especially, but not, it's not like not men's, just women's. It's just that women's isn't as mapped and known and deeply like scientifically explored and understood and talked about as deep as men's has been, and so that's why I say, kind of highlight women's, because that's what's the deeper exploration and knowing and rightness and approval of that is kind of what's missing. Does that seem on the spot? Is it a good gem?
Yeah, it totally
okay
does.
okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matthias. And then we'll go to Carol for a quick one before you wrap up.
Hi there. Aubrey, I'm
Carol.
so happy. Yay! I'm so happy that you're doing this. And I just really want to honor you so, like, I couldn't possibly honor you enough for just holding the power pole, just like being out and speaking and loving everything that you're saying and doing. For myself, yeah, I'm kind of like what Rachel was saying. I'm wanting to do everything all at once, and like, how do I slow myself down to figure out whatever that next step is. But then also I'm seeing that it's like what we have, the erotic, the access to the erotic is what, like you said, what everybody wants and needs, and they just don't have any awareness of it. So it's almost like anything that we do is going to be, in the right direction, so to speak. Like, for example, I've noticed with my women's group, just getting the women to show up. And I just saw a woman I text all the time. She said she really wants to come and she never comes. But even like that, and then a couple of women will show up, but I keep showing up no matter what. I keep showing up and holding the space. And then women show up, and then we talk about like relationships, but we don't quite get to sex, or we start reading the sutras and we get through maybe two paragraphs, and they're so full, they're like spinning. So we discuss. But that's where people are, you know what I mean? So it's almost like you could do anything. Or just like in this town, like if you hug people, I'm learning you have to ask permission first, or you get in trouble. I've gotten in trouble for hugging people. So, it's like the littlest thing goes a long way. So I just keep doing it, like whatever I can do to be out. And then for myself personally, how can I have my voice be out in the wider arena and have it be effective. And then even for me personally, just exploring the erotic, I mean, we are still in the the culture that we were all born into. And so even working with myself in the, asking for ohms, or I mean, that's not so hard, but just wanting to teach people but talking about it and then having them like, oh, I don't know. Or they know and they're freaked out about it, so they won't or so I'm just saying there's so many, like anything you can do is to the good.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. You're turn on Fairfield, Carol. Do it. Do it, Carol. Come on, light it up.
Oh my God. As soon as I heard, and especially like bail denied because, menaced, they're going to corrupt society. It's like, what? It's just made me want to, it makes me want to fuck everybody in town and with everybody. But you can't do that.
Oh my God.
You can't do that. You have to take it slow and one step at a time. So that I'm just seeing where I can put,
Oh my
poke
God,
in.
Carol, that was amazing. That is it. That's it. That's kind of it. It's like we have that sutra, drive outrage into creation. It's like, yeah, drive outrage, have some sex, get out there and spread the word. Spread the good word. That was so good, Carol. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Yeah, you just reminded me, like, I wanted to say this at the end of the call, which is this is a revolution. This really is a revolution, and it's a revolution Eros style. It's a revolution in the way that Carol just said. Joking, not joking, not joking at all. It really is. And it's a revolution in the way of, like, we as erotic beings, we're in a vast mycelium network, interconnected web of being with all that is, right? And this erotic Eros path, piece of the mycelium network, we have been gifted with this flooding of this transmission that is like healing, beautiful, the nutrient that everyone's missing, the most, like, just stunning, like God, I don't even have the words. It was like the most beautiful flooding of, like, meaning and, like, wisdom and all of it, and, like, we have a lot of that in our piece of the mycelium network in this community, and what we need to do is flood it out into the whole entire worldwide network. Just keep flooding it out, mycelium network style, whatever way your piece is, that, and however it does that, do that. This is a revolution.
Thank you so much, Aubrey. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up today's call with some reflection. So if you'd like to give some reflection to Aubrey, or any based on the call or anything else you've heard today, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll put you on, starting with Russell.
Hi. I'm just going to quote this. To relate to your power, you have to turn down the offering of the victim candy. That was just spot on. Thanks.
Thanks, Russell.
Thank you, Russell. And let's see. Next up, go ahead and raise your hand. Where are we? There we go. Iris. Oh, you're on mute still.
Thank you.
There you
I was
go.
trying to get it off of mute. This is beautiful. I love what you do, and all of you, of course. I love you guys. And I wanted to speak to that sitting on the fence, that 99-100, because I've been doing that, and it's very painful. And this court case has given me some kind of power. It's coming up. I feel it. It's calmer than normal, you know. And this is a fight I've been fighting since I was a child, you know. I remember watching Martin Luther King on TV, okay? And him fighting for all of us. Not everybody puts them to fighting for Black people. He was fighting for justice for people. And he mentioned women often. And I remember sharing, I recently shared Billie Holiday's song and her story and what they did to her, because it reminds me so much of what they're doing to Rachel and Nicole. I would call that low-hanging fruit instead of strange fruit, because it was easy to pick them, because they were there, they were in front line. And I know some about the front line, a lot about the front line, of being the one that was shown and whipped and, you know what I'm saying, in front of the whole family, so that they would behave, so that they wouldn't do the things I did. My thing was I wouldn't be controlled. So yeah, this is like an awesome, awesome movement. Very healing. I'm fighting on Wiki a lot. Because
yeah, girl, you getting it on there. I heard.
Because it's stupid. I was in class with these people. You're full of shit, people. I was in there with them, seeing them have an awesome time. The married couple, they looked so much in love when I was in NDI. I don't know. Was I seeing things and not understanding? Well, nobody had to force them. The whole thing is bullshit. And it's the same thing that they've been doing from the beginning of time with people of color. So the outcome was hurtful. I was hoping that there was the 1 or 2% that got free from that bullshit, but that nobody gets free from the federal cases. But it didn't shock me. No matter how beautiful Rachel and Nicole are, I just can't see them in there. I can feel them in there, but in my mind, it's like the biggest injustice in the world that I've seen in this century anyway, or this decade for sure. It's done. She's done miracles. You guys have done miracles to free a lot of women. I mean, if this power is coming up in me, and I've been on the fence, okay? Teeter totter, ouch, it hurts. No, you know what happens when you're on the fence? Guess what's in between? But I've been on the fence a lot, and I'm seeing a power come up in me that reminds me of when I was younger and fighting this stuff. It does remind me, but now it's more mature. There's a oof in me, like, wow, she lost. Wow. And then the naysayers, I want to punch him in the throat. But that's the teenage me. I don't want to punch him in the throat. Like, shut up. I know I was there, Don't stop lying. I'm in the middle of reading the transcripts too. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. If everybody says yes and signs consent for, how many consents? I used to complain about how many consent forms I had to sign.
I know, right?
Like, I signed the consent form this week. Is that good enough? Nope, anytime.
I know.
But it definitely was I saw no force, none whatsoever. I saw desire. I went crazy looking for money too to get to these classes. So I'm on Social Security.
Me too.
Somehow, and the generosity also helped. I got to these classes because this is what I wanted to do, and I saw freedom at the end.
Yeah.
The end is not here yet. Thank you for holding the flame. I so want to hear this side of the story all the time, all the time, because it truth clunks in a different manner, except for all this hogwash and all that. There's a truth that clunks in my system. Keep on telling the truth. Keep on helping save our people. Free Rachel, free Nicole, and free us all. What's it going to take?
Thanks, Iris. I love you so much. Thank you for being here in every way that I mean that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Iris. And then we'll end with Matthias. You're going to take us out with our line for the day.
Am I?
You're on.
Okay. The revolution is here. Turn your vulnerability to 11 and stay soft, but on the spot.
Nice. Nice. Thank you so much, Matthias. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And again, tomorrow we have our community call, our 8-week series community call. It's the second one. Kevin will be on to give us another breakdown of the trial. And so go ahead and continue to join us then. And then on Wednesday, we'll be joined with Alicia, giving us her version of the Eros Talks Back. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. We will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.